Ordinary, Powers Series Book 1, written by Starr Z. Davies, narrated by Nathaniel Asher. 7. At the top of the stairs, I round the landing and crouch down in the corner behind the hallway bureau Mom uses to store extra towels. The lemony scent of furniture polish drifts up my nose as I press a hand against the side of the wood. It's as smooth as glass. For a moment, all is absolute, deafening silence. I hold my breath, waiting for something to happen, though I'm not sure what. I know it's my imagination, but it feels like my sense of hearing has heightened, probably just from the adrenaline pumping through me. The familiar sound of creaking floorboards echoes up the stairs as my parents move in the entryway below. Dad breaks the silence, his voice so low I barely hear what he says. I thought we made ourselves clear. "Just open it, Gavin," Mom says. Her voice sounds almost breathless, anxious. It doesn't help my already pounding heart. The hinges on the front door creak as it opens. "I don't suppose it's a coincidence you're here today," Dad says, in a tone I know too well. He's ready for a fight, and if there's one thing I know about my dad, it's this. No one should want to ever try to pick a fight with him. Heels click on the hardwood floor near the door, and a familiar female voice says, "I'm merely here to follow up." "You're wasting your precious time," Dad says. I can't see downstairs from my hiding place, but I can picture my dad, arms crossed over his chest, which is puffed out stubbornly. "Far from it." The moment she speaks, I realize who it is. Dr. Joyce Cass. And somehow my parents know her. "We told you before, he won't be coming to Paragon," Mom says. The strength in her voice surprises me. "I don't think that's up to you anymore," Dr. Cass says. Her heels click on the floor again. I edge tighter against the white rail, hoping my shadow isn't casting on the wall. "I'm not sure you fully understand just what your son has to offer. And I'm not just talking about our research. I'm talking about our society. We won't let you torture our son in your tests," Mom says. "Torture?" Dr. Cass laughs out the word. "Do you really think so little about the pursuit of knowledge and science? I hear he has an aptitude for our research. Perhaps if he helps us find a cure, we will be able to find a place for him in R&D. My breath catches, and not with fear, but something unfamiliar. Hope. Could there really be a solution to my problem? "You would be generously compensated, of course," Dr. Cass goes on. "Your illness is progressing rapidly, Gavin. We could help. Paragon is on the brink of a breakthrough in curing illnesses like yours. You will be the first in line." Illness. No one said anything to me about Dad having an illness. I'm already getting treatment. "Ineffective treatment," Dr. Cass says. "You know the injections will only slow the illness. Paragon could reverse it." "If you get to experiment on our son," Dad says flatly. "You can't force Ugene to go with you or undergo more testing," Mom says. "You don't have the authority." Yet. The word hangs in the air, and the implication is clear enough, even for me. My heart drums so loud I'm afraid it will give me away, and I close my eyes to try to calm it. Dad's voice lowers into a threatening growl. "You have some nerve." "You knew this day was coming, Gavin," Dr. Cass cuts him off. "It's time. Give this to him. He can call me any time, day or night. I'm happy to answer his questions, but don't wait too long." Heels click again, and the door opens. "Ugene has the potential to save us all. Don't let him waste that." The door slams shut, and for a moment, all is dead silence again. I can't move a muscle, frozen in place. After everything that's happened today, my mind is spinning. I can't quite figure out how the pieces go together yet, but if I really do have that much potential, Dr. Cass would be the one to know. "What do you think?" Dad asks. Mom sighs. "I don't know, Gavin. She's hiding something. I can't read her. It's like she's mastered her mind and I can't penetrate the barrier, but something is off. Mom's psionic telepathy ranks strong, 89th percentile, and she works as a desk clerk in the Department of Social Welfare. I don't need telepathy to know that, Dad says, but she will be back. Mastery of the mind is hard to accomplish, and usually only psionics can do it. Dr. Cass is a naturalist, so if she has a barrier to block my mom, it wasn't put there by her. I ease out of my hiding place and move to the top of the stairs. Mom leans against Dad, her head against his shoulder and his arms around her. Despite all the confusion in my mind, only one question comes out. What illness was she talking about? Both of my parents jump and turn their attention to me. What, dear? Mom asks. What illness? What treatments? Is that what you were doing when I came in? Dad has always been a rock in my life, unyielding sometimes, but that wasn't always a bad thing. I chalked it up to him being a general. Despite the problems the two of us are having, I love him. He's my dad. Even unyielding and harsh as he might seem, he cares about me on some deeply buried level. It's nothing for you to worry about, Mom says, moving toward the bottom of the stairs. But it is. I'm part of this family still, right? Of course you are, sweetheart. Then tell me. Ugene, you can't listen to that woman, Dad says. She can't be trusted. But you need treatments, I say. Is Dr. Cass right that you can't get them without their help? No. Dad's hand falls on the railing and it rattles under his grip. You listen to me, Ugene. For once in your damn life, listen to me. Mom places a hand on Dad's other arm in an attempt at reassurance. Gavin. Dad barrels over Mom's protest. That woman is sneaky and slippery and conniving, and she won't stop until she gets her way, no matter what. I am listening, Dad, I say, taking a step toward the edge of the stairs. My hands clench into fists at my sides. I'm listening to the fact that her offer has an expiration, and if the proposition passes, I won't have a choice, and you won't be on that list. I don't want to be on any list she has. Why are you so stubborn? Dad says, eyes wide, go to your room. Typical. Can't win, so you send me away. Fine. But Dr. Cass is right. This isn't your choice. I storm away to my room and slam the door. In middle school, I went from being the bright kid to the late bloomer to that powerless kid. By the time I reached high school, most of my friends had moved on. Dad assumed the same as everyone else. One day my power would manifest. I just hadn't discovered one yet. He recognized my interest in the sciences, though, and for my 14th birthday, he bought me a second-hand microscope and slide set. He believed I'd develop a power that would allow me to get a prestigious science job. Over the next 4 years, I collected odds and ends, glassware, tongs and clamps, a chemistry set, measuring scales, slides, until the assembly grew so large I had to move it to the basement. Tonight, after my parents go to bed, I sneak down the stairs to my basement laboratory. The basement smells of an odd mixture of mildew and bleach. I do my best to keep my area sterile. I cross the barren floor to my metal desk, littered with a dozen lab notebooks. Each contains information about my experiments with the different branches of power. So far, the only thing I have been able to discern about myself clearly is that my cells lack the linking mechanism Dr. Cass became so famous for discovering. Somewhere in these notebooks, there has to be some clue I've missed, some answer to what gives me so much of the potential Dr. Cass sees. Of the 4 branches of power, each has its own unique linking mechanism, its own way of bringing the cells together to create just the right power. One of my notebooks is filled with notes about somatics. I begin digging for answers. Somatic cells bind together when abilities are activated. Not all the cells in their body, but only the ones connected to the physical ability. For instance, someone with enhanced touch would have cells that bind in a chain from the point of origin, say the fingertips, through the nerves that send the signals to the brain, enhancing the sensation. No matter how many times I've tested myself under a microscope, I haven't been able to make it happen. The cells repel instead of bind. Through the course of my research, I've learned that somatics have a cellular structure that responds differently to particular acidic chemicals. Because their bodies are more physically adaptable, they are more attuned to response than the other three branches, which causes their cells to react. It wasn't my breakthrough. Paragon published it years ago. In a few rare cases, the type of response generated can indicate the type of somatic power one has. When I learned this 3 years ago, I ran out and bought a chemistry set. I scraped off my cells and started testing them in every acidic chemical I could legally get. After months of testing and retesting, it was evident somatic could be checked off the list. I would never develop a physical power. Today's review of the notes doesn't reveal anything new. My scribbled comments, diagrams, and formulas all reach roughly the same conclusive results. I reach for the next journal. Naturalists are the most uniquely diverse branch. The linking mechanism for them is fascinating. The power to tune into nature and shape, mold, or heal it is directly connected to how the cells respond to the environment. For instance, someone with natural mutation, the ability to mutate energy or objects into something of similar energy, would have cells that bind with the energy or object itself during manipulation. It doesn't change their body, it merely allows them to transform it into something else. When putting my cells against those from natural energy, nothing happens. I have 2 notebooks of various experiments to prove it, and today the notes lack just as much revelation as they did when I wrote them. No dots to connect. I scrub through the next 2 journals looking for something, anything. Divinics and psionics are somewhat similar in their recordable activation. Both are best tested by watching brainwave patterns to see which areas light up and how brightly they do so. Of course, this makes them the hardest to prove at home because I don't have access to the equipment necessary. Mr. Springer and I worked on a couple experiments, hooking up electrodes to record responses while doing various tasks. For instance, we recorded my brain waves while testing cells, hoping for some hint at any of the healing hand's abilities within the divinic branch. While he was impressed with how my brain lit up for certain parts of the test, none of them were even close to textbook indicative of divinic ability. We also tested my brain waves while I attempted to read his mind, testing for psionic telepathy. That came out to be a complete dud. Turns out I'm very creative, though. After years of research, I'm no closer to an answer than I was at the start. If anything, I'm farther away. This reality is nagging at me as I pore over the notebooks, hoping for something, anything to rocket me on to answers. There must be some reason I'm so different. Frustrated, I thrust the notebooks away and sit back in the chair, fingers dragging down my face. I lace them together behind my head as my gaze falls on the diagrams of the branches of power stuck on the wall above my desk. Each diagram shows a complicated web of each branch and the powers within it. All of them have an X over them as I eliminated options. But I do have one option left. The only option, really. I sweep my journals off the desktop into a neat pile and peek under the metal desk for my messenger bag. It's tucked back in the corner near the wall. I dig it out and stuff my notebooks inside, then head upstairs, tiptoeing all the way. 8. Dad's snoring reaches all the way down to the kitchen, where I'm digging through a stack of mail on the table. The number of medical bills gives me pause, but that's not what I'm after. I'm not even sure what it is I'm looking for. Dr. Cass gave my parents something, and my only assumption would be a business card. Nothing on the table is suspect, so I move on to the counter, searching everything on any surface as quickly and quietly as I can. A creak upstairs freezes me in place, and I hold my breath, listening. But the only sound to return is Dad's snoring. I can't find it. Everything is sickeningly normal. I brush my fingers against my fuzzy black hair and turn. Think, Eugene. It must be somewhere. What would happen if I just walked into Paragon and asked for Dr. Cass? Would the people at reception know me like Devon did? Something in the trash reflects as I drop my hands, and I rush over. The red PD logo shimmers on the business card, but it's only a logo. Frowning, I turn it over. Dr. Cass's phone number is handwritten on the other side. Glancing over my shoulder, I pocket the card and drop the note I wrote for my parents on the table. Hopefully, they will understand I'm doing this for them. At the back door, I give the warm kitchen, with its modern wooden cabinets and granite countertop, another look, then turn off the light and slip out into the darkness. The scent of sarsaparilla reaches for me like a familiar caress as I make my way around the house. The Salis borough of Elpis is far enough from the heart of the city for the houses to resemble houses and not compressed brick buildings. Regent Road is always quiet at this time of night, not quite midnight, but still dark. Some of the neighbors' windows are still lit. The houses on my street are in fair condition, all sided in different natural colors and trimmed in bold white. The smell of the gardens and a few of the sprawling front lawns has a calming effect on my nerves. Jasmine, lavender, and spiderwort. The gray-sided house beside ours has a freshly mulched bed of sessile bellwort, the bloom of the flower hanging its head as if in sympathy for my fate. Sarsaparilla cowers in tree beds on one side of the road, hidden by taller plants. But the smell is familiar, like home. I turn right and start up the street. Trams don't run as frequently at this time of night so far from downtown, so I'll have to walk. Not that it matters too much. Once I'm far enough from home, I'll make the call. Eugene? Bianca's voice draws my attention toward her front porch. Even at night, the pink staghorn sumac is bright with color, weaving over the lattice work that covers the porch crawlspace. Bianca glances back at her house before she stands from the steps and jogs down to me. Her eyes shift over the messenger bag strapped across my chest. I pause, captured by the way the moonlight casts luminous highlights and shadows over the contours of her heart-shaped face. Hey, what brings you out so late? She asks, smiling in a way that makes my heart race. The smile reminds me of the time when we were 7. Bianca had a thing about playing in puddles in the rain, but our parents wouldn't let us out during the storm. As soon as it ended, Bianca was at my door in her rain boots, smiling like the sun. I remember the way rain hung to her clothes, and how her boots were coated with a layer of mud and water. She made sure to hit every puddle between her front door and mine on her way over, so by the time she arrived, she was already half soaked. We spent the better part of the afternoon under cloudy skies, playing in the puddles and making mud castles. It wasn't until Forrest pulled her home that the fun ended. I'm just hoping that a late-night stroll will give me some answers. To what? Awkward silence settles. It's apparent that the boy who splashed in puddles and was the knight to her mud castle kingdom was forgotten. Now, I'm nothing more than the powerless boy across the street. How did career day go for you? I ask, trying to break past the uncomfortable feeling between us. Great. A lot of prospects, I think. I'm looking forward to graduation tomorrow. She glances at the house again, then pulls her hair over her shoulder and absently braids it. An old habit. How about you? I got a lead, so we'll see, I guess. Cool. Anyway, I shift and glance up the road. Right, sorry. Enjoy your walk. She moves back toward her porch, and I start back up the road. I hope to see you tomorrow, Eugene. I don't for a second believe Bianca thinks she will actually see me tomorrow. We both know it isn't true. Salis is peaceful. The only sounds are the night birds on the hunt, crickets, and the occasional hum of a vehicle as it passes down the road. Each time I hear the engine, I glance over my shoulder, praying it isn't my dad. The houses are all quiet as the residents slumber, oblivious to my own inner turmoil. This has to be done. For Dad's sake. For all of us. Maybe they won't tell me what's wrong, but it doesn't mean I can't help. Earlier today, I hesitated, unsure if volunteering for Paragon's program was a good move. But if it really can help Dad, what choice do I have? The park at the edge of the Salisboro is simple. Swings, a slide, and a climbing wall for little kids. Bianca and I used to climb that wall. She was always better at it than me. I settle on a bench. For a few minutes, I just sit, leaning forward with the card in one hand and my phone in the other. Suddenly, I understand what Dad meant when he told Dr. Cass it couldn't be a coincidence. Paragon wants me. The convention center, the hard sell, the security. And when that failed, Dr. Cass showed up personally. The profound lack of trust my parents have toward her isn't lost on me, and as it all comes together, I wonder if I'm really doing the right thing. But something Dr. Cass said lingers. Your injections will only slow the illness. Paragon could reverse it. Swallowing the anxiety knotted in my chest, I punch the numbers into the phone, and before I can change my mind, it rings. 9. A half an hour after making the call, a black car with darkened windows pulls up to the park, and a woman with auburn hair and skin as pale as the moon beckons me to get in. I apologize for the delay, she says, sliding over for me. Her apology sounds civil enough. I can't help wondering what her power is. With those thin, shapely legs jutting out of her black pencil skirt and her slender build, there's no way she's a somatic. Dr. Cass is waiting, and she's a busy woman, so let's not delay. It's still hard to believe I'm going to meet Dr. Joyce Cass, my role model. By the age of 20, she had discovered the linking mechanism that distinguishes specific powers within each branch. It's work others had started and could never complete. And if I'm meeting Dr. Cass, then the woman beside me is most likely her assistant, Hildy Long. How many Hollow News reports have I seen these two women in? And how did I not recognize Hildy immediately? The ride is silent. Hildy sits rigidly, legs crossed and hands in her lap, staring out the opposite window. Clearly, she has no interest in talking to me. The corners of Paragon Diagnostics twist up and disappear in the night sky when we step out of the vehicle. This building promises hope, curing power-related diseases, improving the lives of those with weaker powers. The swell of hope I felt at the upstairs railing at home earlier returns. The massive glass doors slide apart, granting entry into the large lobby of the building as Hildy and I step up to them. The ceiling rises through the center of the building 5 stories up, lined with glass panel railings at each level. Pristine whites and deep blacks make the slashes of red, blue, yellow, and green stand out in striking contrast on walls and fixtures. It's beautiful and clean, and everything I remember it to be. Employee pass stations block off the far end of the lobby, where another foyer and a bay of elevators waits. Hildy swipes her arm over the station, and we pass through easily. In the elevator, she smiles at me. I realize I'm staring and divert my gaze to the red and black elevator doors as they close in front of us, then up at the increasing number on the digital display. My ears pop as the pressure changes. The elevator doesn't stop until the number reaches 200. This way, Mr. Powers, says Hildy as she steps out. This lobby is different from the other. The coordination of red and white still contrasts, but there is no black at all, and it's redder. Hildy leads the way to a large office with glass wall panels. Dr. Cass sits on the other side, her blonde hair in waves down to her shoulders. Her skirt and suit jacket are blue, the same outfit she wore on the broadcast earlier in the evening. Through the glass wall, she looks up and sees the two of us approaching. Everything inside me freezes. I'm about to enter the office of the woman I have idolized since the age of 8, and all I want to do is run. Hildy is holding the door open for me. After you, Mr. Powers. Each step is heavy as I swallow the lump in my throat and proceed into the office. Dr. Cass's office is like the rest of the floor, red and white without a single trace of black. An expansive desk of glass guards one end of the room, but there's nothing on the surface. No computer or phone or lamp, no files. It's just a polished glass surface. Ugene Powers. Dr. Cass stands, and the way she moves is smooth, like gliding. I can't look away as she rounds the desk and sits on the edge, facing me. Her long fingers curl around the edges of the glass. She holds out her hand to me. Joyce Cass, CEO of Paragon Diagnostics, I say along with her. I know who you are. I've read all your reports on the power classification linking mechanisms. It's just brilliant. Really? She cocks her head to the side and clicks her tongue. So, you have an interest in genetic science, then? I suppose that makes sense, all things considered. All things considered. I struggle to hold back the wince trying to leap out. Well, Ugene, I can call you Ugene, yes? I nod, but she goes on as if it's already assumed. I won't bore you with typical interview questions. You don't have to tell me about yourself. I already know everything I need. Dr. Cass turns and touches the desk a couple of times, then swipes her hand over the surface. A holographic image rises out of the glass. I know already that she's a naturalist with transmutation power, changing one organic object into a different organic object. And a strong one at that. She's one of the few who ranks above the 95th percentile. But what she is doing with her desk goes beyond computer programming and well beyond my level of understanding. Then I notice the image is of me, a report about my birth, childhood, pictures with my family. The exposure should creep me out, but instead, I'm fascinated. I don't think there's any question about whether or not there is a place for you here, Dr. Cass says as she flips her hand through the air, causing the images to whir by until it stops on one. My testing day results. The work you would be helping us with could benefit the future of our entire society. You could be the key to unlocking the genes that trigger powers, the key to helping us stop regression for good. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Paragon Diagnostics to study the genetics of someone without a power. You could help us identify exactly which gene determines powers and how those powers can be boosted by comparing yours with others. This discovery could help us cure power-related illness, regression, and so much more. The only question is, are you interested in helping the future of humanity? I stare at the image of the blood test results, trying to decipher the meaning. A sigh slips out, and I look at her, my hands folded in my lap to keep from fidgeting. Maybe, but what exactly would I be doing in this research testing? A great question, Dr. Cass says. You would be paired with one of our more promising researchers. Together, you would test against each of the branches of power, while your muscular, skeletal, and chemical reactions would be monitored for discernible changes. Those results will be compared with subjects with powers, in the hopes of discovering the key to the powers mutation. A standard compare and contrast methodology. Dr. Cass pauses. I haven't lost you, have I? I assume since you read my research you know what I'm talking about. I nod. Good. Dr. Cass glances at the test results on the display. We would also be taking blood and other genetic samples. Nothing to be alarmed at. All perfectly safe and painless. You would live here in a dormitory space we provide, along with other volunteers so we can be sure your diet and environmental exposure are optimal. You mentioned compensation and health care earlier, I say, feeling my cheeks heat and hoping my darker skin covers it well enough. Dr. Cass gifts me with a soft, matronly smile. Of course, everything comes at a price. She swipes her hand against the air again, and images whir by until she finds what she seeks, a medical bill with the name Gavin Powers. The number clenches my throat and makes my stomach twist in knots. My dad makes a lot of money, but these bills, there's no way he could ever pull this off, even with his significant military salary. It's absurd. Here is my offer, Ugene. We will pay off your father's current and future medical bills, give your family a generous stipend to alleviate cost of living pressures, create a trust in your name to help you move into the future, provide you with a private dormitory, and seek options for full-time employment for you once the study concludes. Each item she ticks off makes me dizzier. This isn't real. It can't be real. Why are they willing to offer so much to me? I can tell you are hesitant, Dr. Cass says, after a glance over my shoulder. This is all too good to be true, right? I promise you it isn't. Her hand pushes the image down into the desk, and it disappears. Then she slips into the red chair beside me. You're special, Ugene. I get the feeling that no one else sees you that way. You don't think you deserve all of this, but I assure you, if your genetics can do what we are hoping they can do, you deserve far more than I could ever offer you. You are guaranteeing to help my father? I point at the now blank desktop, unsure what that even is. With his treatments, of course. His treatments and anything else that might arise out of his disease, effective immediately. My eyes snap to attention. Disease? I gathered he was sick, but a disease? You don't know, do you? Dr. Cass's face falls, and she reaches over a cool hand, giving mine a reassuring squeeze. Ugene, your dad has muscular degeneration. My stomach twists. I should have guessed. A power-related illness. Thousands of thoughts tumble through my mind, and I can't grasp any of them long enough to make sense of any of it. One thing is abundantly clear. Degeneration of any sort kills. Hildy, get him some water. Dr. Cass's voice is like a distant bell. I'm aware it's there, but it's so far away, like I'm drifting away from the world. I wipe my sweating palms over my legs and stand. The room spins, and I close my eyes to regain control. Are you okay? I'm fine. The lie comes out of me in a croak. Ugene. Dr. Cass's hand falls on my forearm. I know this is hard, and I'm sorry to break the news to you. I honestly thought your parents would have told you about this by now. He's been sick for nearly a year. Please, take a few minutes to digest all of this. My legs give out, and I drop back into the chair. Dr. Cass hands me the glass of water Hildy retrieved. Acceptance of the glass is automatic. I don't realize, but now it's in my hand, the cold glass contrasting starkly against the heat of my sweating palm. His disease doesn't have to be the end, Ugene, Dr. Cass says. Some of the best divinics of our age are finding ways to heal even the worst diseases. They are only months away from a cure for cancer, a real, viable cure. There's every chance your dad's treatment can cure him. Your participation in our study will improve those odds. I want to believe her, to hope she is right, but her conversation with my parents rings in my memory. The sooner you can get him on our health plan, the better his chances are, Dr. Cass says, pulling me back to reality. What do you think, Ugene? Will you help us unlock the mystery of how these powers work? The sooner, the better. I gulp down the water, coating my empty stomach and insides with the icy liquid. How long? I manage to ask. Well, that all depends on how your future test results come out, Dr. Cass says. There is a shine in her eyes that reminds me of an eager child, curious and desperate to know more. It could be a few months, but it could also be years. We won't know for sure until we get started. This feels like a mistake, but muscular degeneration will kill my dad. If he's already had it for a year, he probably only has another year left, maybe less. The very thought makes me feel sick. And I can't help but think of Mr. Springer's warning, too. She raises a brow, then glances at my messenger bag. Can I count you in? Yes. The acceptance is more of a croak than a real word. Excellent. Dr. Cass slides the glass out of my hand and passes it to Hildy. Do you need a ride home to collect your things? No. The word jumps out, and my gaze locks on hers. No, I've got what I need. Going home would mean facing my parents. It's better this way. Dr. Cass's face lights up, making her ice blue eyes shine in the artificial office light. Then there's no need to delay further. Hildy steps forward with a glass surface in hand and holds it toward me. The holographic black letters of the contract rise off the surface of the tablet, as if beaconing me. Just sign at the bottom of the first section there, Dr. Cass says, pulling my attention away from the contract in front of me. The time and date will be automatically stamped on the document. My eyes skim over the legal jargon, trying to make sense of what I'm supposed to sign. It's really quite standard, Ugene, Dr. Cass says. You agree to cooperate with our tests and offer the appropriate samples determined by your assigned researcher. Agree to stay until all tests are complete. Any samples we take are our property, and you do not have right to remove them. The basics of any research contract we offer, apart from the benefits terms we discussed. My mouth goes dry. She can't be trusted. Dad seemed so vehement about that, as did Mr. Springer, that it makes me hesitate, makes my chest compress. Is there a pen or something? I ask, buying a moment longer to think. The research belongs to Paragon, which is understandable. In fact, the more I rush through what she said in my mind, the harder it is to find a flaw in what she says. Maybe Dad is wrong. Not necessary, Dr. Cass says. We use biosignatures. Just press your finger to the box. Any finger will do. As I raise my finger over the document, I chew at the inside of my cheek. I'm stuck here once I sign this. At least my dad will have his medical benefits, however long the research takes. I press my finger at the bottom of the document. Dr. Cass quickly slides the tablet out of my hand and waves towards Hildy. Hildy will take you to processing, then to your new living space. A smile splits Dr. Cass's face, flashing teeth so white they make her light skin seem dark. You have just saved us all, Ugene. You're already a hero. The words don't quite ring true in my head. I push myself to my feet, shaking a little, and follow Hildy back out of the office. Before we slip out the door, I glance one more time over my shoulder at Dr. Cass. She is perched behind her desk, long fingers running over the surface. All the pleasantness that dominated her demeanor a moment ago is gone, replaced by excitement and pure concentration. And it makes me wonder, what have I done?
If you enjoyed this sample, click the links in the description to hear more. Do you want free audiobooks, ebooks, or autographed paperbacks? Join me on Patreon at patreon.com/szdavies_character-assassin. You'll gain access to my Discord server, behind-the-scenes updates, merch, and so much more.